The Voice and Viewpoint, as I often remind you, is San Diego's oldest and only African American publication, spanning some 65 years. We are available online. You may download our app in the Google or Apple store. We still provide print copies. We are in 17 cities and unincorporated areas in terms of hard copy, 89 zip codes, retail outlets such as 7-Elevens and over-the-counter in many instances. And if you don't know where your paper is near you, you can call us and we can tell you based on your location. We don't print the list because we've had severe vandalism when we made the list known in advance as to where we are. So we are here this evening with an open mic approach with Dr. Leonard Thompson III. We have a great deal to talk about because there's so many things going on. You may call in when we have open mic to 858-251-6111, or you may go to godradio1.com in terms of reaching us on the internet. So, Dr. Thompson, here we are again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And, I just want to jump right in, Dr. Warren, because something that really disturbed me, and maybe it shouldn't have disturbed me, but I think that any time that the free press or that the press is being stifled or silenced, we have to be concerned about that. And I just want to jump in and ask your opinion on the Voice of America being shut down.
Well, the Voice of America should not have been shut down. It's in kind of a unique posture because it was always intended as a propaganda arm for America in terms of presenting its image overseas to other people. And it's been very successful for many years in terms of sharing information. But this is all a part of the dictatorial approach that Trump has overall. And we're seeing the pieces come together as we look at what he's done so far. He is definitely against the press if the press is not giving him what he wants. He took over the White House press entity so that he could bar people from being there who had been in the White House. We have one lady who works as our chief correspondent with NNPA, the National Newspaper Publishers Association. She had been in the White House Press Corps for 28 years, and just a few weeks ago, she was raised a question which was appropriate in terms of respect and told to sit down and shut up while they went to a white guy that was standing behind her. So Trump has no feelings for anything other than what he wants to do. He is a tragic sociopath. People have been misled, drinking the Kool-Aid. They thought that when they got him, they were getting the answer to all their prayers against all of these immigrants and third world people coming here. And they're finding out there's a lot more to it than what they really bit off and bargained for. And so this week I have an editorial, which we'll talk about later, the theme of it, that the president is a symptom and not the disease. The symptom and not the disease. And I'm going to clarify why we are. He's not only after the press, he's after the judiciary. He's encouraged his gremlins to start impeachment proceedings against at least 2 federal judges, which is the only way they can be removed. And so in addition to that, he's gone after at least 3 law firms today through executive order, canceling security clearances, revoking access to government buildings for them, and canceling any contracts that they might have, with the whole intent of intimidating these people, each of whom have some history either in terms of representing people against him or involved in litigation against him. And so he's going to push the limits and create the constitutional crisis that exists, that when the courts rule, as what happened Saturday, when they were told to turn around those flights, sending 260 Salvadorans, gang members, back to San Salvador, and they refused to do so. If you move to cite them for contempt, the Justice Department is co-opted with Bondi working for him. The FBI is co-opted with Kash Patel with him. The Marshal Service in is co-opted. He's canceled security, Secret Service protections for Hunter Biden and his family. And so he's not leaving a stone unturned in terms of going after people. He went illegally after those 200 and some Salvatorian gang members using old statute that was intended on for wartime. So he's abolished that. Institute for Peace, he got D.C. police and marshals to go in, take those people out. Today he called himself firing members of the Federal Trade Commission, which he has no authority to do because they are appointed by the president. And this, we have an advise and consent system so that this is the way it works. And I'm taking a moment, Dr. Thompson. The members of the House and the Senate are elected by the people just as members of the state legislature are. But when those people use delegated authority under the Administrative Procedures Act to create boards and commissions, they are allowed to empower them to a limited degree, but not delegate all of the power that those elected people have gotten from the folks who elected them. So one of the checks and balances in the process is that once the commissions are created and they engage in rulemaking, then their rulemaking has to be put out for public comment under Title V of the Federal Administrative Procedures Act, sections 553, 54, 55. And then each state has an Administrative Procedures Act, as California does, because this is how we get notice and due process. And so this is the means by which the people who are not elected directly but have delegated authority, their actions are put under check and balance by the publication of notices with is normally a 40-day period where people are given to respond. So we have to re-educate America to how the system works that's being dismantled because otherwise we just don't get it.
Yeah, and you know, one of the things about it, Dr. Warren, is that I'm just really shocked that, and I want to ask the question, where are the Democrats and where is their voice? Because it seems like Donald Trump is allowed to run roughshod on everything. Doesn't matter what he says or what he does, whatever the president wants, he gets. And I'm just concerned that there has to be some leadership that will stand and say, this is unconstitutional, this is wrong, and this should not be happening.
Well, the Democrats had been standing together, but as of last week with the continuing resolution, which is referred to as a CR, we saw Chuck Schumer cave in, and they wouldn't have got it passed without it. The government would have shut down. The progressive Democrats in the House and the Senate are very upset because when you engage in a relationship that Trump wants and he thinks comes back and say, very well done, then you know you did something wrong. Mm-hmm. And so that's a part of the problem. But let me go over to the House side for a minute, because the Republicans only have a margin of about 3 Republican members in terms of the majority that they have. In the House of Representatives, then, the 218 is a magic number, because any bill that's been introduced, even though we have Mike Johnson as the speaker, if they, the Democrats, were to circulate a discharge petition and get 218 signatures, that legislation could be brought to the House in spite of the Speaker's effort to block it. Mm-hmm. And so I don't see anything that they've done in terms of trying to do that, and they should be trying to do it, even if they don't anticipate it, because there's a possibility that a couple of Republicans at any given time will cross over. And we don't see that happening at this point. And so now that we have a bill introduced in the House to impeach the judge who did the ruling on Saturday, and even though the bill has to be introduced in the House, impeachment requires a trial in the Senate. And they need 60 votes to make it happen. So now people are concerned in terms of the Democratic Party as to whether or not there's going to be an effort to move in terms of impeachment. Mm-hmm. And you will see that Judge Roberts, the presiding judge of the Supreme Court, came out the other day and made it very clear that the appellate process is there, and that the legal system is not to be threatened with impeachment for political purposes.
Yep.
So we're headed for a showdown, and it will be a manifest constitutional crisis when it occurs.
Yes, and, and I've been watching this slowly but surely, and it is a very troubling time. The Bible says in the last days, perilous times will come. And we are truly living in the last days. And it's not just because Donald Trump is in office. Really it is because the wisdom or the hearts of people are waxing cold. And they'll just accept anything as long as it is they think that they're going to benefit. But again, they voted for a man, and they might have said when they voted for him, it was either going to be a trick or treat. And right now, they really are experiencing that Halloween where they are really realizing that they have been tricked, but they are so gullible that they don't even want to admit that they've been tricked. So they just keep going forward, like as long as they close their eyes and say it don't exist, that everything is going to be all right. And that's the sad thing that I'm looking at the parties right now, and even American citizens, that they're sitting back thinking that if we just act like it don't exist, it goes away.
Well, we got a couple of things going on. We had a meeting last Saturday here in San Diego, which was a BAPAC meeting, and it was a meeting for people to bring their issues and concerns. BAPAC was joined by the American Civil Liberties Union, who I understand was offering to do some training. But here are the people that were there, the cast of characters. California Secretary of State, which is one of our constitutional officers for the state of California. Mm-hmm. Sarah Jacobs, who is a member of Congress from this area. Lachey Collins, Assembly member for the area. Board of Supervisors rep, City Council member. All these people were there. And Dr. Weber gave an overview in terms of how BAPAC got started. The whole idea was to rally BAPAC to be about the business that it was about when it was first created, and that was to be a political arm. But ironically, it was a political arm of Willie Brown at the time, even though Dr. Weber says that her late husband, Judge Dan Weber, administrative law judge, that they created the organization, a chapter, in their living room. Mm-hmm. Okay, and so we have a situation now where the Doge people are coming in. They've identified at least 5 local federal buildings that they want to close down. They're going to be moving on people, and so there was discussion about what do we do and how do we rally. And I'm so sorry that we didn't pass out copies of the Voice and Viewpoint at this meeting, because the Voice and Viewpoint has been on this particular issue for the past 2 or 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. Number one, we've printed the names and phone numbers of all the elected officials so that people can get in touch with folks and let them know how they feel about what's going on. So that was one of the major things that we did. Number two, we printed a list of businesses, corporations that have pulled back on DEI, mm-hmm. diversity, equity, and inclusion. Mm-hmm. And then number three, we have been a part of the publicizing from the national standpoint. The National Newspaper Publishers Association, along with the Urban League, NAACP, and Al Sharpton's organization, they've all taken positions of against Target as a primary entity, calling for a fasting from using Target's products for 40 days. And so Target owns not just Target, but it owns TJ Maxx as well as Marshalls. Mm-hmm. And so we understand from the initial efforts that their revenue has dropped by some $15 billion. And so we were already ahead of the game in terms of encouraging people to honor what we call the SBC, the Selective Buying Campaign. And so it's more than Target, because we need to be looking at McDonald's, mm-hmm. and all of the fast food places and the beverage entities. And so if you're going to do that, if you look at PepsiCo, which owns Pepsi, then you also are looking at Pizza Hut, Frito-Lay, Kentucky Fried Chicken, Taco Bell, and all of these entities.
Long John Silver.
And Long John Silver. So all of these entities, we have the ability to impact them because I am always telling us that there are only three things that corporate America understands: lost profits, bad publicity, and a vote cast against their interests. And so we can vote with our feet in terms of not going into these places and spending our money during this time. And it has to extend beyond just Lent, even though the pastor out of Atlanta, Pastor Jamal, started this whole thing. We all have an opportunity to get the attention of the people that we deal with. And if we do so, it's going to make a difference in terms of what we're fighting.
So let me ask you this question. Good evening, all for who are tuning in. Let's just break it down. It says, Dr. Michelle says, also a special election is coming up. How will the next election, elected officials impact San Diego?
Well, as we do know, the special election that's going to be held on April 8th is to fill the vacancy created by Supervisor Nora Vargas resigning right after she just got reelected to a 4-year term. And so among the people running for that position, Vivian Moreno from the 8th District of the City Council here, and Mayor Aguirre out of Imperial Beach, they're the two main people. And then the main male candidate is John McCann, who is a mayor of Chula Vista. And so, of course, Imperial Beach has been getting a tremendous amount of pressure because of the failure to have the EPA and any governmental entity step in and provide some kind of relief with the pollution that's coming over from Mexico. And just as of yesterday, I believe it was this weekend, the mayor got another letter from EPA saying that they weren't going to do anything.
Yeah.
And so I think people might gravitate toward her to have a physical presence on the Board of Supervisors. Right now, it's 2-2, two Democrats, 2 Republicans, and Tara Lawson-Rima, who was vice chair, is acting as chair. But they can't really get anything done because Joel Anderson and Jim Desmond from North County as the Republicans are there, and then you have Monica Montgomery and Tara as the Democrats, and so still takes 3-2, and it's 2-2. So I don't see a lot happening.
Okay. Well, I want to go on to the Great Tariff War and the brilliant idea to go to war with all these different countries and entities over tariffs. It's going to bring jobs back to America. It's going to take a little time, but it's only a couple of months and we'll be good and we'll be making money. Let's talk about the tariffs.
It's not going to happen, and I don't see it because, first of all, the tariffs are doing more harm to relationships than the few dollars that he's talking about. The whole capitalistic system works from the standpoint of retail wholesale. And so when people buy wholesale and their prices go up, they tack on the increase to the retail. The perfect example of that right now is what we see from the bird flu. Because of the shortage of eggs and the 80 million some chickens that have been euthanized, now you see signs saying if what you get has egg in it, there's a minimum 50-cent surcharge. And in some cases, the surcharge is per how many eggs used, as opposed to just having an egg use period. And so I noticed that in Sam's Club, they have a rather interesting scenario because 18 count egg count is like $6.99. A 24 organic egg count is now $9. 2 weeks ago, it was $8. So those things are going up, and they have signs limiting two packs, two sets of eggs per customer. So the $6.99 are the brown eggs that they say are pasture fed or whatever. I don't know how you gonna tell the difference unless you really some kind of egg connoisseur.
Well, they say that brown eggs are the best eggs to bake with.
Yeah. So and people got to have eggs for baking. So that's very real.
Well, my question is, and maybe it's just me, when toilet paper went up, right, and everybody was running out saying we got to get toilet paper because there's going to be a run on toilet paper. You know, the first thing I was like saying, well, there should be a run on bidets. You know what I'm saying? So you don't need a whole bunch of toilet paper. Just go ahead and bidet it down and go on. But, you know, I think that was a little bit too much for them. But it's even like with eggs. You know, I don't eat eggs a lot anymore because, you know, I used to have a boiled egg every day, right? But when they start going up, I said, well, I could just deal without the eggs. Now they're saying that the cows are being affected. Well, guess what? If that means I'm not going to be eating red meat, so it be. I don't drink milk.
Yeah.
So I just think, like you said, the selective buying campaign is where we need to be.
Well, and even when you look at milk, since almond milk has come along, a lot of people have switched to almond milk because a lot of people have milk, lactose intolerant, and all those things. But then they have a bunch of other milks that have come along now. They got goat milk in the store and oat milk in the store. And the one thing I haven't seen in the stores here on the West Coast is buttermilk.
I knew you was going to say buttermilk.
Yeah, and you know, it's two things I've never been able to drink. That's buttermilk and moonshine. So they don't go well with me. But buttermilk is good, you know, in terms of cooking with it. You know, you can get buttermilk biscuits. It's in there. And so, but the problem that the farmers are having now is how do they plan ahead? Because with the tariffs being on and off, it's affecting pricing. We've had changes at the Department of Agriculture, gone and removing people and impacting it. And all these things are crucial. You know, even the EBT card scenario we have, that grew out of a system going back to the 60s, I believe it was, when we were had surplus. We had the powder eggs, okay, that they were giving to the poor.
Okay, now you got to talk about the cheese and the peanut butter.
Yeah, and we got people get the big block of cheese, and the peanut butter.
Made the best cheese, grilled cheese sandwich.
Well, that's about all it was good for. You know, when I got responded to the draft and went to the induction thing, we all had to get on this bus and go in those days, and they kept you there. But what they gave you to eat during that day was a cheese sandwich, and a piece of cheese on the 2 slices of Wonder Bread was at least a half an inch thick. Okay, but we were trying to move that cheese. But look at a very slick thing happen in America. They say a strange thing happened on the way to the forum. What happened? Somebody got the idea that we're going to make cheese a standard commodity for just about everything. Hence the cheeseburger.
Yeah.
Now, you almost have to beg not to have one. Whatever you get, they got the cheese. And now they've come back and tried to do the same thing with the pork, the Baconator, and putting all this on there, but that's not going over as well. And they still had a shortage of pork. But that's ironic because the Chinese eat more pork than anyone. And here in this country, there are places where we have major outbreaks of wild boars, and people have bounties on them in terms of killing them because of how they impact crops and the whole thing that they do. And they are very dangerous, by the way. Those boars are dangerous because they can hit you with that horn and bring you to the ground, and they kill people. So even the folks who hunt them have to be very careful in terms of how they go about doing it.
And they smell horribly.
They do smell horrible. And so now, you know, they want to stop the EBT, the food assistance that a lot of people have come to depend on. And we see it right here. Remember during the pandemic, we saw boxes and boxes of food being given away.
Yep.
Well, those boxes are paid for. And even today, a lot of our seniors get these white boxes every week. They're refrigerated. They're called traditional something. In these boxes are at least 7 meals, just like you used to get the Swanson TV dinners. And there's 7 meals in there that are microwavable, and then they have fruit, and they have a couple of other items in there. And so they're giving this stuff away every week. Meals on Wheels is feeding people. Food Bank is feeding people. Feeding San Diego is giving food. And all of these things are necessary because people have insecurity, both in the city and in the country. And now we have the Trumpeteers and the Doge people trying to wipe all of this stuff out, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. And so, at the end of the day, what I'm saying, the reality is that tariffs, in the true sense that you can give someone a tariff, but they're doing a tit for tat. There should have been real negotiation, not like, okay, you tax us 20%, we're going to tax you 20%. No, on the products that we have to have some middle ground. You feel what I'm saying?
Well, and you do, and we know that people like in places like Detroit and Baltimore, and Buffalo, that are the two cities closest to the Canadian border, that there's a real impact. People being stopped at the border in terms of goods coming across that heretofore came across without any problems. Some are being turned back, so that's impacting inventory and supplies on this side. And then we have a tax that's been put on steel and aluminum. Well, now I can understand perhaps the tax on steel because remember the Biden administration stopped the effort to sell Bethlehem steel in Pennsylvania to China. And they just said, no, we're not going to do that. Steel has been one of the foundation products of this nation, and we're not going to outsource that and sell it off. So I can see some of these things. But as I point out in my editorial, with control of the House and the Senate, the president has the wherewithal to do the things that are being done legally, to put them before the people, to have them debated, to have a decision made as to whether or not the laws would pass or there would be modifications. He's just trying to skip over everything and saying, I'm going to act like I'm king. And I don't believe America is ready for a king. And I think that he's going to push it to the point that he's going to get pushed back and kicked back.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that is amazing to me is that this thing we're going, it's almost like we see the problem, we know that it's not good, but we're still with a blind eye. And what really concerns me more than anything else is that the algorithms now is that even on social media, when you go live, if you say Trump's name too many times, they shut off your signal.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, and that concerns me because that means that Twitter and Facebook and Instagram are all colluding with the president to shut down anybody who will speak against them.
Well, because we know from watching other countries like China and Russia and North Korea that if you control information, you control the people. The good news here is the internet and all of the various vehicles that we have in a democracy make it very difficult to shut it down completely.
Yeah.
And so that's why I believe I'm sure they having a fit with cable news network, but the cable news people are engaged in filling in the gaps for us because in so many instances you're not getting any information from ABC, CBS, and NBC.
Okay. Well, let's come local and let's talk about BayPAC. And I know that you had it covered this weekend. How did it go?
Well, it's a question of how did it go. I think some 70 people came out for the meeting. There was a lot of questions. The people never did really get around to asking or coming up with solutions. They wanted to talk solutions, and they never did. And that happens so often when we get together because we get together seldomly. And then when we do get together, people are left out that should be, uh, a part of the loop, and everybody is doing a reentry in terms of the conversation. So those things make an important difference. But I believe that the hearts and minds are there, the willingness to fight for change, and I think that people are going to be receptive, and that we just have to keep on. There's supposed to be additional meetings, additional organizational discussions, and we just have to make sure that we're ready to be a part of that.
So as we look at moving forward in the climate that we're in, we see that SpaceX went and got the astronauts down finally. So Elon Musk to the rescue. But it seems like some of the things that Elon Musk is doing is backfiring. But to me, I don't believe that is backfiring. But he is literally in there getting all the information he can gather before he leaves and takes it and then uses it against the United States.
Well, yeah, he will use it against people that he can see competitors in all the areas that he wants to expand into. And so I think that's going to be a case. But, I want to get beyond Elon Musk for a moment. If I can, I want to mention something locally here that's very significant that I've been made aware of. I've been made aware that a small group of black folks who have anointed themselves as leaders and spokespersons for the community, and I'm not going to call their names so they can't sue about it, they have gone to the mayor complaining about the firing of Eric Dargins and how he was fired and what was done and the whole bit. And they want to meet with the mayor and raise all kind of hell about this. And I hope that the mayor will not entertain that conversation because, first of all, Eric Dargins was an at-will employee, and in a strong mayor form of government, that means just that. And the mayor didn't just wake up and fire him out of the clear blue. The mayor made it clear that he was realigning his administration because of this massive budget shortfall, and he was taking those duties and responsibilities back under his wing, and he was truly now functioning and has been functioning as a strong mayor. On the question of Eric Dargins, I never thought that he should have been brought here in the first place. And my opinion is not personal because he seemed to be a nice person. But Dargins kept thinking he was still in Houston. And he was not proactive as he should have been. I remember him coming to a lot of meetings through the flood thing when he finally did show up. And he sat in the meetings with his iPad, doing everything except expressing an interest in what was taking place. He was supposed to be over all of the department heads and dealing with them on the mayor's behalf. And yet there were things that happened time and time again that he was not even seeing when he should have been out there when the floods happened. He should have been one of the first people on the scene on behalf of the mayor instead of the people having to struggle to get somebody to come and say something. And so to those of you who are so worried, Eric's going to be okay. Okay? He got a severance check here. He still got retirement and stuff, and he can go back to Houston if he wants to. And I want to remind you again that nobody appointed you to go to the mayor and say that you represent us. You certainly don't represent me, and I haven't seen anybody write to the paper saying that they designated you as representatives. And we don't need some junior Elon Musk popping up here in San Diego trying to tell people what to do. If the city council didn't respond and they received it and understood what was happening, then the rest of you certainly should as well. And you can be as mad as you want to about what I just said, and I could care less.
With that being said, I would say that, I think everybody's going to have their opinion. I thought that it could have been handled differently. But again, I'm not in those shoes to say how it should have been or shouldn't have been handled. But what I would say is it just seemed like he was never really given a fair shot when they kept. This is my opinion.
Yeah, because
when they kept
that don't
the
hunt.
other guy on.
That dog don't hunt.
Yeah.
But that's a whole different situation,
Yeah.
Dr. Thompson. Yes, when they kept what's his name, on before they brought him and put him over top of that development process out there, yes, people complain, and it shouldn't have been done. But the one wrong doesn't make a second one right. He was brought in, he was given authority to function, and he didn't function to the extent of the authority that he had. That's the issue, and I don't know how they wanted to be done differently. He was given notice that it was going to happen because the crisis was there in terms of the budget. He was given 90-day severance pay. That's 3 months checks for whatever he was making. He still had the option of staying in San Diego if he wanted to. It wasn't like that he got fired and he was put out and made homeless. That's not the case. And so all of this delayed, blatant argument over the termination, you better be focusing on the independent budget analysts, how we're going to balance this budget, what is happening. You need to be looking at this police chief who's buying furniture and hiring, promoting new lieutenants, and doing all these things that don't necessarily have to be done, and not responding as he could to a number of things. And there's another area. So, my position is if we're going to deal with Eric Doggin, let's remind the police chief that he's an at-will employee too. And when Lansdowne was there, when the new mayor came in, Lansdowne as chief was the first person to say that he knew he was an at-will employee and that he would be leaving. He wasn't trying to fight to stay here. And so, and if this chief can't get it together, we need to let him go too. So let's not play favoritism with this thing.
Yeah, I do agree that we should definitely not play favoritisms, and we have seen a lot of favoritisms and unfair practices over the years that I've been alive. But let me go back to this. There was one other thing I wanted to talk about on the national level. Is Donald Trump now babysitting Elon Musk's son? Because I basically saw Elon Musk's son walking to Marine One with just him and Donald. So I'm trying to say, is he now babysitting too?
You know what, Dr. Thompson? Number one, I don't know. Number two, I don't care.
Yeah.
Number three, we need to be focusing on how we stop Musk. And that's the major thing. And then number four, we need to be revisiting the limits of executive orders. Because when Obama was president and McConnell blocked him from getting legislation passed because they said they wanted to, in the first term, make him a one-term president so that he couldn't get anything done. And then when he started using executive orders, they started complaining. Mm-hmm. And now Trump is administering by fiat. He's making everything in executive order. Democrats ought to be raising questions and filing some issues about what is the limit to an executive order. Mm-hmm. How far can it go? I don't hear this question being raised. And that's why people are concerned about the Democrats. They're not functioning.
Yeah, I'm not hearing anything from the Democrats.
No,
that's what concerns me the most.
And they need to speak up because now they're getting ready to do a campaign. They're getting ready to go and do a series of town hall meetings in the Republican districts around the country where Republicans in the House have refused to attend town halls meetings because they don't want to hear their people complaining about them not doing anything about Trump. Mm-hmm. But this is not a new approach. 50 years ago, when D.C. was being held hostage and were trying to get home rule, people like the former Congressman Fauntleroy, who was a pastor in D.C., they started organizing people in the congressional districts of all those members who were against home rule and against D.C. getting their federal payment. Mm-hmm. And they started campaigning for people against those folks to get them out of office. This is not new. The playbook is there, okay? And we can't put it all on one man. Now they're talking about all the work that Jamie Raskins is doing. And Jamie Raskins, yeah, he's a constitutional scholar, but he's one person. There are other people there that can speak up and do things, and they're not doing it. And so that's what we need to deal with.
I agree with you 100%. And as we begin to look at, currently what we're facing in the United States, and we have to now start also looking at what's happening in our local states. Now, here's the thing that's really funny. When California had the wildfires and everything, he blamed everything on the governor. Now they're having wildfires in Texas and all of these different places. I haven't heard one peep out of him blaming the governors for their wildfires.
Well, first of all, he didn't just blame them here in California. He interfered and had them release water that shouldn't have been released because it wasn't going to make any difference to the fires, but it does impact the farmers in terms of the water they're going to need for the coming harvest season to water their crops. So people got to understand everywhere Trump turns, he's making a mess, and there are right now over 123 cases pending at various court levels with challenging the things that are being done. So I think that we need to, I said this a month ago, that we need to prepare a response to Project 2025. We know he's following the playbook. We have a copy of the playbook. We can start legislatively moving in the direction of dealing with the playbook. One of the things I like about Saturday, Lachey Sharp Collins was there, our assembly representative for the 79th Assembly District. And she hasn't been in Sacramento that long, but she has produced a legislative package, which we have, with about 25 bills that she's introduced dealing with a host of things, DEI, California Code, all kinds of things that she's come up with the legislation, and it's pending now, and she's about the business of getting these things done. That's what we need. And so we could be more actively involved in looking at what's taking place. We do know that the Attorney General got a piece passed that the governor signed that creates a budget for the AG and the district attorneys to file lawsuits against the Trump plans because they know they're coming for us, and so we're ready with resources to litigate. Those are the kind of things we should be doing. We should be preparing for this onslaught that's coming.
Yeah, and that's what I think is so important is that while we are being distracted by all of the things that are happening, you're exactly right. We have to get to the playbook. And you know what, Dr. Warren, I'm thinking that maybe we need to have a whole a group get together and break down the playbook and give people marching orders because, what is it, 500 to 1,000 pages? It's something ridiculous.
I forget the number. I have a copy of Project 2025. But our problem always, Dr. Thompson, is that most of us don't want to engage in the sustained application of our time to prepare to deal with these things. We want to come in, fizzle, make some speeches, say we told them, and leave. Now, for the past 30 years, 40 years, I've been engaged in opening up the Voice and Viewpoint for meetings on key issues that come up. 25 years ago when we did the Million Man March and they came back with the local organizing project, I opened the offices once a week for them to come and meet. And the same thing happened that happened with all such efforts. The people will come 2 or 3 weeks, and then the numbers will dwindle, and they'll stop coming, and they'll fall off, and they won't come back. But on the East Coast, people get busy when the sun goes down. They have working committees. They have people working with the issues that are confronting them, and they don't stop just because it gets dark or it's cold. They do the groundwork at night for what takes place in the day, and we haven't reached that point yet.
Somebody said we need biscuits, grits, and politics once again.
Yeah, but when we do biscuit grits and politics, to bring folks, many of the very people who should come don't, and they spend more money than that for a breakfast meal at McDonald's.
I think that she's saying biscuits, grits, and politics. Project 21. Let's get it on.
Yeah, well, we've tried that a couple of times, and we're not going to stop our efforts because we have a number of efforts on the plate right now in terms of the paper. But again, the people have to want to get involved.
Yeah.
If the people want to get involved, we can open up anytime, any day, have those kind of meetings and deal with stuff, produce what we need to get the people to introduce it or whatever. We can get that done. But when folks know, just like the developers in the Encanto situation with the radio tower land, they already own it. They know if they just keep on raising hell long enough, a lot of us gonna fizzle and go away, and they gonna come back. Even though we stopped footnote 7 and the whole bit, they gonna try to outweigh us because we don't stick with the issue long term. And that's our problem because we confuse discipline with oppression. And you've got to be disciplined if you're going to win the battles that we're dealing with today.
Okay. Okay. So the key word is selective buying campaign, and also the discipline to do the selective buying campaign.
The SBC,
and,
we call it.
Yeah, the SBC, and also being able to press through. I think one of the things that you're saying is that even when they have the meetings at night, even if we offer meetings at night, if people don't come because they're too tired or they're too that, then it doesn't matter what time we have the meetings if we can't get people to get involved.
No, that's right. And we've done all kinds of things on that note, Dr. Thompson. Mm-hmm. We've had Saturday morning meetings, and we might have get them for one, but when you get ready to have a second meeting, they're missing in action. And I think that's the one thing about Black Men United, now Black Men and Women United, is that for the 5 years from the point of inception, the first 5 years, all those men met. We met every week, every Saturday at Christ United, every Saturday at 9 o'clock for 5 years. Mm-hmm. And that is commendable that we did all these things in terms of it. And we've lost so much because we talk about our young people. Well, we've lost rites of passage. That was a place that we brought in young men and we mentored them and helped them get adjusted in the whole bit. Okay, we've got a group here called African American Educators. I've asked for years, at least a decade, for these people to get with our pastors and to get with the churches and to come up with a curriculum and offer some Saturday classes to our students, to our children. Every church should be about the business of a library. So if there are banned books, we can acquire those books and make them available to our kids. And so I know a lot of the educators, their excuse was, well, I did this for 20, 30 years. I'm tired. Well, you might be tired, but you find a little time to do the things you want to. And so it's a question of, do you want to be a help and make a difference in terms of what we're dealing with?
Yeah. And one of the things about it is that what much is given, too much is required. And it requires us to do the push because many times I can imagine, I start my day at 3 o'clock in the morning and to hit a night meeting sometimes, you're exhausted. But when you see the greater good of why you got to be there, you press through.
Right. You have to. And you're absolutely right. So, but we're here. We're not quitting. We're going to keep doing what we do. And even like when we have these calls, we invite you all to have questions, the comments, and people come on and tell us they listen and we see the numbers, but nobody wants to say anything. Mm-hmm. There has to be a dialogue in the marketplace, folks. Mm-hmm. And I know there's no way you can hear a conversation and not have an opinion unless you're asleep or anesthetized, Yeah,
and one of the things is that, with us having these conversations as well as, it seems like when we have guests on, it gets really hot, right? And when we are here together, a lot of people say they sit down and class is in session. But I do know one thing about it is that what we have in store for them is going to have everybody talking.
Oh, yeah, because we are lining up people for guests coming on, and we're working on that, and we're trying to do it in such a way that it's consistent, and we can really make it work. And we hope that we have questions and comments, because normally when we have guests, the numbers are there
Yeah.
to support it.
So, Dr. Warren, can we move to San Diego Voice and Viewpoint? What's going on at San Diego Voice and Viewpoint? What's coming up this week in the newspaper?
Well, one of the things that's happening in the paper is, for some reason, a lot more people are doing name changes and fictitious business, going into business, and so the numbers in terms of the legals are way up. We're covering the opening sports activities that are taking place in terms of baseball season with the kids, and giving them space and time if we can. We just covered the big event that took place at the Kipling, that community health fair. We have information and pictures in the paper for all of that this week. And so the editorial page is something we want to look at, because we're trying to make people aware of their national issues. And right now, we're encouraging you, if you haven't done so, sign up for the News Bites. You have to call the office and sign up for the News Bites, because they're online at least 3 times a week. We are on TikTok. We're doing videos in terms of people coming out and speaking up about what we're doing. And so all of this gets to be extremely important in terms of this overall sharing of information that we're doing. And so, yes, the print is once a week, but everything is online. Everything else is online: pictures, videos, stories. And we invite you to take advantage of them and let us hear from you.
All right. And your editorial topic this week?
The editorial topic that you can find is called "The President is the Symptom." The symptom, like the toothache is a pain, is a symptom of a tooth problem. And I say he's the symptom, but not the disease.
Okay.
And so we're going to find out that, ironically, the disease is twofold. It's fear and racism. And it's fear of people changing the complexion of this country, fear of their holding positions, getting involved when others used to be in control, fear that the birth rate's down for some groups and up for others. And so the fear is so great that the people like Trump, who surface and present themselves as an alternative or solution, are embraced with all of their insanity, even at the cost of our democratic principles.
Yeah.
Because we're just that afraid and just that racist.
Yeah. Someone just said that it's hard to get participation consistently in San Diego, and I say that it just depends. It depends. There are a lot of things that people are consistent at, but what we're finding out is hard to get a lot of people consistent. There are some people. There are solid groups of people that are consistent in their approach and how they go about it, but they're few and far between. What we're trying to do, anytime that you're trying to get a movement is, it might start off with 1 or 2 people, but to sustain it, you need more and more people to get with the movement. And a lot of people that are complaining right now, I tell everybody who did not vote, I really don't have anything to say to you. Because
if you didn't vote, you can't complain. That's like complaining about the lottery when you didn't buy a ticket.
Yeah.
If you ain't got a ticket, you're not in the game.
And that's the first thing. If you did not vote, then shame on you. You can come back when the elections come back up again, vote, we can talk. For those that did vote and drunk the Kool-Aid, you can now not be disappointed that the Kool-Aid was bitter. We kept telling you that he was not going to put sugar in it. But yet it's still, people bought into it, and now they're frustrated because he did exactly what he said he was going to do.
Exactly. And so those are the things that we have to deal with. Your opinions are important. You don't have to be a fancy writer. It can be 1 or 2 lines that you just write. This is what I think. This is what I feel. That's the essence of the democratic process, that you share your thoughts, and you don't have to be a teacher or a doctor or somebody. If you pay taxes, you live here, a citizen by birth, you have a right to an opinion, and you cannot let others stifle that expression. That
Exactly.
is your born right.
Exactly. And, Dr. Warren, several people we're coming up this week. We actually have the homegoing service of Leon Williams. Do you have all the details? I know Thursday is a viewing.
Well, these are the details, and I'm sure they're up, and we put them in the paper this weekend and online. On Thursday, the 28th, 27th, I'm sorry.
Myself, yeah.
Thursday the 27th, there will be a visitation hours from 4 to 8 at Cypress View, and that's right there on Imperial Avenue at the Cypress View Mortuary. Then Friday, the service will be at Calvary Baptist Church. There will be a viewing from 9 to 10 a.m., and the service will start promptly at 10.
Okay.
Okay, and one of the reasons it's there at Calvary is because it's in that community that, the Mr. Williams got to start when back in the 60s there were meetings between the blacks and the Mexicans, and a decision was made that Chacon would run for the assembly and Leon would run for city council, leading on to the board of supervisors and all those other things. So it's a very important time in terms of what's going to take place. And I would imagine if you're planning to come to the funeral, you should probably come early in terms of getting a seat.
Yeah.
Because it will be quite crowded.
Yeah. Ms. Moore said, what position should the church take on the current issues of the country?
Well, that's a very important question, and theoretically, the church can't take a position because the church is a nonprofit, and the church is caught up in that fallacy of separation of church and state, which is not in the Constitution. And I get so tired of telling people it's fabricated. But I think what the church can do is the church can do as it did in the civil rights days. The church can engage in prayer in terms of the issues that are there. It can engage in having discussions, a place for meetings, because that's what we did in the South. We met in the churches, okay? And there's nothing that says we can't meet in the churches. You're not going to be shut down because you open your church to a community meeting and people have a discussion. Discussing issues is not a matter of being political. It's a right to have open discussion.
Yeah. Well, those are a few things that we can do, but I hear you saying let's go back to the basics first, and
Yes.
then move forward from there.
Right.
Well, Dr. Warren, believe it or not, we have reached our hour, and this has been
Yes.
the Desk of the Editor with Dr. John Warren right here on GODRadio1.com. And check out the app.
It's in the Google or Apple Store, Voice and Viewpoint. And share your views. You can email, text, call, however. Always glad to hear from you. And the papers are in the library, at the churches, senior places. There's probably no place you can't find one these days.
Yeah, and continue to stay tuned and check into the Voice and Viewpoint. New website, new energy, lots of things that are getting ready to come down the pipe. We need you to be aware. So stay locked. We'll continue to give you great information. Again, this is GODRadio1.com. Y'all be blessed.